Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow-Driven CEO podcast. It's a USA kind of day for me today. I have someone next up I shouldn't say someone, I should say Loren McCray from Houston, Texas. Welcome to the show, Loren.
Yes, hello. I'm so appreciative and glad to be here and join with you today.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, thank you, Lauren, and I'm super excited to have you. On board as well. We have a lot to unlock when it comes to human potential. It's your purpose and your passion, and I'm super excited to be talking to you about that. You you're a brand and innovation leader, and you're a chief brand and marketing officer at MC
And
Square. McCray Consulting. I think I got that right. Finally, I
yeah,
was about to say Mc, but I'm like, no, it's MC. I just remembered it's MC Square McCray Consulting, which you founded in 2017, so pre-COVID. And essentially, it's advising executives on brand strategy and growth, but human
mhm.
potential is inclusive of that also, unlocking, I should say. Your background includes global marketing, digital innovation lead at Shell, and a Rice Business MBA, and you work on that intersection of purpose, energy, and execution. When you booked in for the pod, also, and I asked you what's one unique insight or a lived experience when it comes to life, leadership, and or business, you said why rediscovering purpose equals unlocking potential. When leaders lose purpose, organizations lose potential. It is so true. Tell us about your journey. Tell us like how you made the shift from corporate into founding your own company and how I guess, came into this need, desire, passion to unlock that human potential.
Yeah, B, I think we've all kind of gotten there or been in certain aspects or situations. I can like pinpoint it to like a corporate meeting, but all of that to say, we've all possibly experienced where you've been like your potential has been overlooked or
Yeah.
undervalued, unseen. And it's just an icky feeling, right? When you feel like, oh my gosh, I have so much. And whether it's like a bad boss or a toxic work environment, or if the just general organization has lost its way and you feel like you have so much value to give. And instead of blaming the organization, I kind of went introspectively to really uncover why am I sitting around waiting for someone else to kind of identify what I can contribute in my value, right? And see the potential within me. And I can find that myself. So, more or less to say, as I was kind of going on my own soul searching journey is where MC squared was formed, where exactly as you said, where we really focus on that intersection of unlocking human potential and purpose. So I say I kind of galvanize both what I think is like my divine calling and gift area of gifting and combined with my vast, career experience skill set, morph the two together, and that's what we bring to our clients and our business partners. So,
Amazing. Lauren, I actually want I want to go into this, like you brought it up before and I'm like, oh, I so relate to this. But you said we've all had that moment, that corporate meeting moment where what was it for you in that meeting, that specific meeting? Because I've got a couple that I really think they changed the trajectory of my kind of career and where I was going. But what was your actual meeting specifically that if it's okay to ask you, you may not want to share.
absolutely. No, no, no. Yeah. So I just remember being in a meeting and just looking around the room and kind of singularly thinking, like, oh, I'm the only one that's like me. And it's just kind of this ongoing banter of where I feel like I'm doing value contributions, sharing insights, giving strategic feedback, and it's consistently was being overlooked, overtalked, or I had a colleague that was more senior that would say the exact same thing that I would say. I mean, there were instances where it was like word for word, and the head person in charge would say, "Oh, good job" to that person and wouldn't recognize what I was my contribution. But I think where the culminating aspect, where it really came to a head in that meeting, We had hired at the time, I worked for a Fortune 50 company at the time. I worked as a brand manager in that organization, and we had hired an agency to come in and present our social strategy for this iconic brand that's a household brand at the time when I was the brand manager of. And they proceeded to present their social strategy. And I just sat in that meeting in complete disbelief because literally weeks prior, I had presented this entire strategy. And we not only had this like world renowned, might I add, agency to come in and present, we paid them gobs of money. I can't even tell you how many zeros behind it to come in and present this social strategy. And I was just sitting there like in my chair, like boiling of I can't believe that everyone is to the point of giving this agency a standing ovation. And I had recommended this weeks prior and it got overlooked. So there were so many mixed emotions be in that situation and in
Oh,
that meeting. One was I thought that this was just a waste of the organization resources, right? That we had invested money in an agency to come up with a strategy that one of your own internal leaders had already identified and proposed. Two, I felt like we had wasted time. So we were here to better serve our customers. I felt like if we had went with the initial recommendation, we could have went to market faster. So there was
yeah.
lost efficiency and effectiveness. So I can go on all day, right? So after sitting in the meeting, I just kind of jumped up and literally went to the bathroom, bawled my eyes out in tears, came back to my desk, and I applied for my LLC and formulated my company that day.
Wow. And did you resign like pretty much straight away? Did you have a conversation with
No.
them? Like how did you resolve it or you didn't? Like I'm a believer in completing things and especially in those sorts of situations, you can behave or respond in such a way that you can become across quite reactive, but also like sometimes it's quite rewarding in terms of thank you, but this is no longer serving me and you've just gifted me with the opportunity now to go and do something that is going to work for me. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I totally get it. And everybody has their own journey. I think you have to find what works for you. For me, I didn't immediately resign, right? I wanted to, as you said, I try to be a person of to be a committed person that when I commit to something, I'm into something, I want to see it to the end, which is what I did, right? So I stayed on board, made sure to take the social strategy the agency presented, executed it, implemented it within our brand. We got really strong results. All the while, I knew I was a strong leader. I knew I had strong value to contribute. So I could see the gaps, right, within the organization. And so from there, I took all of those best learnings, all of those kind of like blood boiling situations, and said, I want to do the opposite in starting my own organization. So to be fair, I actually was parallel, what I call parallel pathing both. So daytime, I was kind of this corporate brand manager, and at nighttime, I was building my own practice and firm, right? Until I got to the place where I could build enough clients and I could go out and grow and scale.
Oh, how cool. And so when did you officially, like obviously you started the company in 2017. When did you finally go, all right, I'm done now. I can do this. I can go off and do this on my own.
Yeah, so post the pandemic, right? I think everybody has those pandemic stories where people were sitting at home. And I saw that there was a huge opportunity where people were kind of, because of that pause, right? I think it kind of forced, there was a lot of things that were going on at that time, but I think it forced not only organizations, but I call leaders to kind of pause and reflect. And I think that in that silence, it gives you a moment to kind of self-reflect and see, okay, where are we going? Not to mention there were so many organizations that were negatively and financially impacted right? By the pandemic, just the lack of commerce that was going on. So I saw this, as a great opportunity to kind of jump in and scale and grow my business, which is what I did at the time, and really focusing on purpose-driven branding, right? Going into organizations, having them kind of identify what are their problems and then giving radical solutions, right, that are anchored in true insights that are about the human aspect, what I call human to human.
Yeah, I love it. Tell me a little bit about radical solutions. I haven't like I love the term radical, but like this radical solutions because we quite often get so stuck in the problem. Like, we have these situations where it's just like let's just stay here in the story of the problem. Whereas
Mhm.
like let's go I call it solution finding. Like how do we go and how do we solve it versus just or jumping from just problem to solve. Radical solutions, is that like a bit of pace involved in that as well? Like you talked around the frustration of your previous world you were in, and I come from a similar background, and sometimes it can take weeks to solve something. You're like, oh my gosh, this is so inefficient. We could have done it in such a different way. What does radical solutions, like what does that look like?
It's so interesting you say, because when you hear radical, you think of this like big, audacious change, right? Revolutionary. Oftentimes people think of innovation, even invention. And I just peel it back to super simplistic question of like, what am I really here to change?
Yeah.
And sit with that and ask that question, what do I really want to change? Oftentimes, organizations and even leaders get so focused on bottom line. And I understand because that's what gets rewarded. That's usually what gets tracked. Those are the measures. But what am I here to change? No matter what organization you're in, if you are selling products, if you're selling services, what are you here trying to change? And if you can answer that question like on a very simplistic level, I usually use my I call it the grandma test, right? I'm a huge connection with my family. It's a huge value set. And my grandmother, she lived to 101. And it's
Wow.
just kind of hard to like describe, okay, well, I do brand strategy. And she's like, well, baby, what exactly is that? And if I can explain it to her where she can understand and she can follow it, and it's very clear and it's simple, that's where the radical change is. If you can simplify it, your benefit offering, right, and what you're here to change, and then you can create an entire infrastructure and system around that, that's where the radical solution comes, right? And that's where you move from purpose driven as not just a slogan, but a true system that you're living in.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think the system is so right because you talk around purpose, energy, and execution. Tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about the energy piece around all of this as well, because we understand what execution looks like. And obviously, you need
Yeah,
a purpose.
absolutely. So this is actually so quite cool because this is where the company name. So it's kind of a double entendre, right? My last name's McCray, which is MCC, but it's not just the double C, right? MC squared is literally the formula, right, for energy. And so it's
Hmm.
not just the idea of like bringing new energy in the organization, regardless of what your belief systems are. If you're talking about, hey, what energy do I want to infuse within an organization, right? To say, hey, I want to ensure that all of us as leaders have a strong vision and mindset and where we're trying to go. And this is where the intersection of unlocking human potential, right? An effective leader is able to not only motivate, right? Because motivation comes from exterior. Inspiration comes from the
Yeah,
interior. And
intrinsically, yeah.
that's yeah, and that's where the energetic power lies, right? And we know as marketers, right? And even when you're building brand campaigns, commercials, social strategy, we have a great sniff test. So you can pretty much assess when someone is being inauthentic or not true to themselves. And so that's where the energy lies. We really want to drive the purpose where the energy is positive, right? Where it's uplifting and where it's there to serve the greater good. And all organizations, right, and I understand, right? Profit is definitely a measure. We want to make sure we focus on that. But if you really focus on a positive, high vibrational energy, the profits will come. That's
100%.
inev
I
that's
agree.
inevitable.
It's
Inevitable.
yeah, it's provide the value and the profits will come.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's where we see the intersection and where we talk about energy. It's really about mindset, right? Setting a strong vision. Is it here to really serve others for the greatest good, right? No matter what you're offering. And then when you can uncover that, that's where the energy is there. The purpose is clear and identified. And again, that's is what's going to transform your profits and your bottom line delivery value.
I love it. Question for you, right? I said to you my background's in advertising and communications, and obviously had a lot of great clients, big clients and challenger brand clients, and as a brand and innovation leader and chief brand marketing officer, the marketing was always, and you would see this with clients and from an agency perspective as well when you were on client side and had agency. There's the marketing and there's almost like there's HR, there's finance, there's all the different departments, right? And when you're focusing on brand or, like communication or marketing, it somewhat just sits over here. And then HR does their thing over here, finance does their thing over here, ops does their thing over here. I truly believe that, and this comes back to, unlocking the potential of the system, whether that's the human, and I think that a business is like a living and breathing human system as well. It all has to be interconnected. And so
And
I'd love your thoughts on this because I think the old model and the old world of looking at just marketing, excuse me, and brand in isolation of the total system is not conducive to the results that you ultimately want to get for the business or the brand. But yet, quite
absolutely.
often it's still operating in a very disconnected, siloed way. But the only way to bring it all together is, to get that purpose and so I'd love your thoughts on this and what you're seeing in businesses right now and from a leadership perspective.
Yeah, I'm super biased, but I believe that marketing is kind of the core engine of the organization. So regardless of how innovative, whatever product, service, value offering you have, if you're not able to articulate, communicate, and commercialize that offering, then it doesn't get to the mass market, right? And this is where marketing is so critical. And this is where I believe exactly what you said, Bee, that it transcends different departments, right?
Yes.
Every department has a point to play, right? When we're talking about the overarching organization's purpose. And so to me, it's marketing that's able to kind of articulate that, right? Identify what it is, articulate, clarify it, and then commercialize and activate what that purpose is. And this is where you have to, right, as a marketer, get everyone in galvanized support. This is where you have to get accounting and finance and operations, supply chain, legal, all different departments. I often reference a it's like a United States historical fact that when John F. Kennedy, a former president of the US, I'm based here in Houston, he came to Houston to visit NASA Space Center. And as he was doing the tour, and this was at the time when there was kind of this race to get to the moon.
Yeah.
And there were so many different countries that were on this kind of space exploration race. And one of the famous lines from John F. Kennedy, a former president of the United States of America, had said he stopped in the hallway during his tour and doing all these briefings, these NASA briefings with these brilliant, right, innovators, inventors, right, and NASA Space Center. He stopped in the middle of his tour and he saw a janitor, right, where other people would have overlooked, right,
Yeah.
the janitor's potential, right, and underrated what the janitor's human potential was because of his title and maybe what his task was. But here was at the time one of the most powerful
Man.
person in the United States to
Yeah.
pause and stop and ask this janitor, hey, like, what are you here for? What's your purpose? And the janitor so confidently responded, I'm here to put a man on the moon. And
I
it
love
was
that.
just so brilliant, right? And it was so earth-shattering that at the top of the organization, right, down to the janitor, they knew exactly what their purpose was. And every different department, even the person that was
Mm,
at the time cleaning the toilets, right, understood. And everyone has a part to play, regardless of where you are in the hierarchy of an organization. You're very clear on your purpose. And this is where I think marketing is so critical. And we see that, right? In share prices and organizations. When you look at the vast top organizations, right, in the world, those that are very clear, they're all interconnected, they're all intrinsically working, integrative, collaborating and cooperating to one singular purpose. Those are the organizations that have withstood challenges, dilemmas, competition, and they're continuing to grow and scale because they, one, know who they are and what their purpose is, and two, they're all working collaboratively together. Again, that energy, right? That momentum of energy is helping to drive them to the success that they are. So I think it's something that we can all take a page out of that book, right? To understand when we go and consult with organizations and those leaders to understand and help them find their way.
yeah, I totally agree. And I love that story. It's such a great story. And it's also for me, it's like it's having your own purpose and ensuring that you rediscover or you discover what your purpose is, and it's connecting it to then the greater purpose of the business. Like how I've always believed that you need to understand the individual's purpose as well, and how does it all interconnect? Because I think it's really important to bring yourself into this as well. Coming back to energy, you know, we've got such a world where it's zapping our energy at the moment, if you like, in terms of like you can be on 24/7, this AI revolution, this busyness. I've been talking a lot about the busyness and busy for the sake of being busy. Like the world's a bit depleted when it comes to energetically. We're coming into that time of year. You've just come off the back of Thanksgiving. Everyone's almost like now it's like as soon as we hit the start of December, everyone starts to feel like they're crawling till the end of the year. And every year I think to myself, and I've been thinking about that this week again, I'm like, why is it every year? Like, why do we get to this point? And why are we like everyone's so rushy now? And it's just like, moods change and like it's festive, but it's also very much exhaustion.
Mm.
What do you think in terms of coming back to radical solution? What do you think is the soul for this? How do we switch it so that our energy is more sustained in terms of because the world's going to continue to rapidly change and evolve. It's not going to slow down. But so are you seeing this in business? Like I guess where I'm going with this is what do you like I'm asking a big question here, but like where do you
You're spot on. And
like, how do we stop the
we
energy leaks? How do we make it more like,
yeah,
abundant?
I think it goes back to kind of being very crystal clear on what problem you're going to solve, right? What are we really here to change? And that will help be the roadmap so that you can diminish kind of, I call it decision fatigue,
Yeah.
right? Where you have all these decisions to make. Imagine I've worked with so many leaders across so many different organizations. To your point, they're at a place of exhaustion because you have a million balls in the air that you're juggling. But if you have a singular purpose, right, a singular focus, and say, this is where we want to lead, this is where we want to win. And it's very clear, right? And it's very hard, especially as marketers and leaders within organizations, to say, I'm going to pass. This is not for me, right? And I'm not going to have those energy leaks by trying to solve every single problem. I often use the analogy, and you've probably heard of like boiling the ocean, right?
Yes.
So it's a lot of energy, and think of these huge conglomerate organizations that are out there. But if we could just really focus and get back to like where we're trying to serve, where what we're trying to change, and focus on this one issue where we're trying to change and make inroads, I think that's where where you can conserve energy. That's what's going to help with the the restoration that's needed, and not to the point of decision fatigue, energy fatigue. Because oftentimes, I don't know about you, B, but even when I get overwhelmed, or when I even see my clients get overwhelmed, they're doing so much. And you have to pause and say, hey, this may not be super efficient. And I can almost guarantee you it's really not effective. And so organizations that are not clear on what they're supposed to do, this is, I think, a huge driver of that energy fatigue, right? And that decision fatigue, versus those that say, yep, I know that I'm here, I'm solving problem A. I understand there's problem B, C, D, E. I'm letting someone else deal with that. This is where I want to lead and where I want to win. That to me is the huge litmus test. And it's a challenge. It's a struggle, right? To
I
say
agree.
no. But
So true
um,
though. Like it's so true. Like I don't know, like and it comes back to being a founder as well, right? You are juggling multiple hats and at times and you brought up the overwhelm word, I should say. And I know when things get a little bit crazy in, kind of like and you've got like all these things, I have to just the more it gets like that, and then I have to just stop and I have to go, right, what is like recenter myself and go, what am I focusing on here? Because I'm not getting anything done properly here right now. I'm jumping between, I'm multitasking, I'm doing all these things where it's like your multitasking doesn't work. It's like getting back to, all right, what is the focus? And
absolutely. I often even ask myself, B, I say, like, just because I could doesn't mean I should.
yeah,
Because the capacity is vast, right? I have the capacity and I have the competency, but that's where the overwhelmingness comes in. There's some things that I outsource, and there's other things that I just completely pass on as a leader of my own company and firm, to say, yeah, that's an awesome client, that's an awesome organization that we could be working with, but we just don't have the capacity. And I don't want to get to that point of being overwhelmed.
no,
So thanks, but no thanks. And it's
yeah.
hard to do. It's hard
Yeah.
to say.
How did you learn that? How did you teach yourself that? Because, like again, you come out of corporate, you're used to this regular salary, everything is kind of pretty, you know where it's all coming from, right? But then you go into being an entrepreneur founder and no day's the same and we're living in this non-linear world. It's a non-linear way of doing things. One minute you've got a really strong pipeline, the next minute you might lose a deal or something might happen where you're like, oh, okay. Or it might be a lull, like there's seasons throughout the year when clients are in, kind of full mode and then other times they're not. Like how do you manage that?
Yeah, I'm still going through it, right? I have not yet mastered it. Let me be super honest, right? And it's something that I'm still challenged and struggle with today. A couple of things that I do. One is just having really self-centered practices, right? So that's just my own individual, like meditation, reading. Other things that I honestly have strong accountability partners. So when I work within my team, right, we hold each other accountable and just assessing where we are. I work off a very strict schedule and a routine, so that also helps me. And then finally, I just really outsource. So I outsource the areas and things that are kind of energy drainers. So, for example, administrative task is just not my jam. Okay. So, I know some people, they're really great at following up and sending those emails and birthday cards, or sending follow-up emails, calendar schedules. I try to use AI for as much as possible. Like even this call, right? We're recording, I'll get a transcript afterwards, right? Instead of taking copious notes. So in those areas, I try to outsource as much as possible. And outsource for an entrepreneur seems like, oh, more budget, more money, more costs. But this is where the friendly thing of seeing like what tools and resources are
Yeah,
available to you that you
agree.
can outsource, right? That's everything from digital tools, from artificial intelligence to like I've leveraged interns. I've gone back to my alma mater
Same.
and asked for interns, right? So there's a slew of resources, and I believe that everything, right, in the cosmos is there to help you for your infinite success. It's just about asking and sitting back and expecting the result from your ask, and it shall happen.
I love it. I love it. So cool. And it's so important to remind entrepreneurs that there is it just defer like delegating is such an important thing and the reward, like you brought up the money situation, but the more you hold on to things, and this is that, money is energy. Money comes and money goes. Like the more you hold on to dear life for things, well, you're not opening it up, you're not allowing it. So I think the minute you start to delegate, and yeah, sure, it might cost you a little bit to do so,
Yes,
but it opens up a
absolutely.
new door for you as well. And I just did it last night. I've investigated something to do with my podcast actually, because I'm just like, it's a lot. Like it's a lot in time behind the back end, the system of it. And just the idea of just this relief and this last night, I was like, oh, this is going to make my life a lot more. It's just opening more opportunity up. It's because it's been a lot. Like is I guess what I'm trying to say here. So I'm like, how do I streamline this? How do I make this work better for me versus trying to keep doing it the way I've been doing it?
Yeah, and I found, and I'm still working on it, as I said, but just when you're talking about money and it flows, sometimes it flows to you, sometimes away from you. And I've heard some, and you've probably heard before how money is just a form of currency,
Yeah,
right? And I try to leverage and heard even from my accountability partners, the other forms of currency that I try to leverage as an entrepreneur in business, right? Money is kind of the mainstream form of currency, but there's other core forms of currency that you can leverage, right? So money is just the paramount, right? Where we have like a value exchange, but there's also your time, right? So how are you exchanging your time? So that's another form of currency, your knowledge, and then also your network. And so oftentimes, if you are at that place as an entrepreneur, or if you're trying to think about scaling your business, how are you leveraging these other forms of currency? If you don't have kind of the finances to go out and outsource or pay for help or support, what can you do? What can you barter, right? How can you leverage your knowledge? How can you leverage your resources, meaning your network, right? There's
yeah,
people that you may know that if you have not because you ask not, maybe it's just an ask like,
yeah.
hey, would you mind helping me with this? And in return, here's a value exchange, right? So
It's all
it's
value
just
exchange,
difficult.
isn't it? It's all value
Mhm.
exchange. It's so true. And look, you know what? Like as an entrepreneur, we're always working on something. And I think it comes back to human potential. If you're not continuously evolving, this is for me the formless piece where you're shaping and reshaping. Well, like something's not right, because if you're saying you're 100% perfect and you've got everything sorted, have you? Like I always question that, right? So like when you're saying I'm still learning B and I'm still doing this, I think kudos to you, because the only
Yeah,
way you're going to evolve as a person, but also your business is going to evolve, is to continue to learn. And it comes back to that shaping, and then you're reshaping into your next form, and you're testing and learning, and you're like, that worked, that didn't work. Okay, let's move over here now. Like it's just that constant, it's a continuous cycle. It's back to your piece around energy. Energy is a continuous cycle. It dips. Sometimes you dip into that survival mode, and you back up into, optimally thriving. But
yep,
it worked. Like I think if you can look at it that way, I think that is the best possible way to be able to approach life, leadership,
absolutely.
and business.
Absolutely.
But two,
Yeah, so it's just a shift in
you go.
perspective. Mhm.
Yeah. But two final questions for you. Human potential. When you say unlocking human potential, I know we've talked a lot about purpose. What are you looking for in a leader when it comes to unlocking their human potential?
Great question. I think that's one, you hear this buzzword about authenticity. And that's really honing into who you are, right? And unmasking all of the junk or all of the narratives and storylines that whether you have self-elected to believe or what other people have placed on to you. So to me, I have a different kind of non-traditional view when it comes to leaders because I believe that everyone is a leader, right?
Same.
You are a leader over your area of gifting, okay? Because everyone, just like their fingerprint, has a unique gifting to the world that they do better than anyone else on the earth, right? So, B, you have that, I have that. Everyone that's listening to this podcast or viewing, you have something so unique that no one else can do. Even if they tried, they would be a distant, distant second, right? And so, because of that, you are a leader over your individual gift. I think that we're in this time space reality to remember and recall what that is. You know, uniquely saying some people find it super early in life, right? Other people, they might find it later on in life. We go through life's journey to kind of uncover and figure that out. But that's where I say the authenticity piece comes in because when you uncover, right, that area of gifting, right, your divine purpose and what you come into this space, time, and reality to give and serve, and you offer that to others, because that's the idea and the premise of a gift, right, is that it's not for you, it's for others. And that's why we call it a gift, right? That's where your true leadership will shine and everyone around you will see that energy within and will gravitate towards you. And that's where your leadership is at the pinnacle. And that to me is where the unlocking potential comes. So all of that to say, true leadership is grounded in uncovering what that divine purpose gifting is and walking in true authenticity of
I
it.
love it. So cool. The gifting, I wrote that down. Unique gifting. I wrote leader equals unique gifting. It's very cool. I'm gonna leave this super open-ended for you, but what piece of advice would you like to give to conclude our conversation?
Yeah, I usually challenge people to really focus and look introspectively, right? And ask yourself, what would this organization look like if we fully honored its purpose? I think that if we can kind of succinctly answer that question, this is where we're going to solve world problems and
Agree.
where we can create a new era, right? Where everyone can unlock who they're always meant to be, and everybody will be better served for it.
So good. It's so good. And for me, it's that whole inside out piece, right? It starts from inside, like you say, going introspectively within, whether you're a leader, whether you're a team, whether you're a business, it starts from within. It doesn't start from the external. And I think that, you talk about this new world order. It's exactly, it's so true. We're ready for it. We need it. It will
Absolutely.
change. It will solve a lot of world problems. Lauren, how do we find out more about you? How do we find out more about MC Square McCray Consulting?
Yeah,
No,
you
did
can
I get
find
that
me.
right? Did
So,
I say that
yeah,
right, MC? Yeah.
you,
It's
you
like,
said
I'm
it
saying
absolutely right.
myself again.
MC squared, yes. So you can find us where, of course, we have what I call our digital storefront, our website. So we have a contact us page and it'll come directly to my business development manager. So you can reach out on our website. You can find it McCray, MCCRAY Consulting. With the number 2.com is our website. So that's McCray, MCCRAY Consulting, the number 2.com is our website. That's our best way that we kind of reach out. Typically, we work with like word of mouth through our clients, but happy to always occasionally we'll pick up clients when we have the capacity that reach out and fill out our form and want to work with us. And if you want myself and our team to come in your organization to help you really unlock that human potential, where we talk about the intersection of like purpose, right? And that human potential to deliver value, we'd be happy to partner and work with you.
Love it. Very cool, Lauren. Very, very cool. It's a yeah, we're right on like I feel like you're a trailblazer as am I, and I'm thinking make a huge, change in life and leadership and in business, which is what Bee Formless is all about as well. Thank you so
Awesome.
much. Wishing
Thank you so much, Bee. It's been awesome. Thank you for the engagement, the questions, and kudos to you for using this platform to help and support other entrepreneurs such as yourself. And looking forward to the continued success and growth.
yeah, thanks, Lauren. And you have a wonderful week ahead, and let's hope the weather gets better for you also.
Likewise. Yes, yes. Have a
Take
great
care.
day.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Bye.